do you know the basic hands of poker? If not, we can start there, and then from there I can teach you how Texas Hold'em is different than basic poker. 5-card draws.
I used to, but I probably don't. So let's go over the basics if you don't mind.
All right. So poker is based on having the best 5-card hand, and 5-card hands can vary. The worst 5-card. So if we're competing, the lowest of the best 5-card hands you can have is whoever has simply the highest card among the 5 cards. So you can have any 5 random cards, and let's say the highest card you have is a jack and my highest card is a king. I will win if you have nothing else. The next best thing you can have is a single pair. So you could have a pair of 5s and I'll have a pair of 10s and I win the hand. And your other 3 cards will be irrelevant. Now in the situation that you have a pair of 10s and I have a pair of 10s, covering all 4 10s in the deck, then the next highest card would come into play. So if I had a pair of kings and an ace, and you had a pair of kings and an 8, I would win the hand. If we had the exact same hand with different suits, I had a pair of 10s, 5, 4, 3, you had a pair of 10s, 5, 4, 3 in different suits, it would be a draw, and we would split whatever pot we're winning. The next best thing, besides a single pair, are a 2-pair. So you could have a pair of 5s and a pair of 10s.
Okay.
If I have a pair of jacks and a pair of 5s, and you have a pair of 10s and a pair of 5s, I win. So whatever the highest of the 2-pair are wins the hand.
Okay.
If I have 3 of a kind, that beats 2-pair. So if you have pairs of 10s and 5s, and I have 3 jacks, even if I have 3 2s, I will beat you. So if I have 3 2s in my hand and you have 2-pair, I still beat you. So far we've gone over high card, single pair, 2-pair, 3 of a kind. Okay?
Yes.
After that we have a straight. A straight are 5 cards in numerical order. And that's not counting an ace as a 1. An ace has to be only high. Actually, I always get mixed up because some people have house rules and those piss me off. No, an ace has to be a high card. An ace has to be a high card, as far as I know. So that, for example, you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you have those in numerical order, regardless of the suit, that is better than 3 of a kind. That is better than 2-pair. That is better than single pair. That is better than high card.
I love the facial expressions on this.
The statistics with straights always fuck new players over, because I'll get to that later, but players always think they're going to catch that straight, and that's usually how they end up staying in longer than they should and not folding when they should. But I'm getting off track. We'll get to the flush. A lot of new players get confused and think that a straight is better than a flush. A flush is better. A flush are 5 cards in any order, all of the same suit.
Okay, so like.
So if I have
5 clubs.
Right. 5 clubs or 5 spades or 4 jacks. I mean, 4 diamonds or 4 hearts.
No matter what they are.
Sorry, 5. I'm sorry, 5. 5 cards.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what I'm saying right now. 5 cards of the same suit are better than a straight. 5 cards of the same suit are called a flush. 5 cards of numerical order are called a straight. A flush is better than a straight. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. After a flush, you have a full house, which are 3 of a kind and a pair. So, for example, you could have 5 clubs, but if I have 3 2s and 2 3s, I'm using the most confusing numbers to explain this to you.
It makes sense.
If I have 3 queens and 2 jacks, that's a full house, and that'll destroy any of the other hands I told you about. Now, full houses, and now we're getting into territory of rare hands. In a long night of poker, you might see maybe 2 full houses, maybe 3, after a long night of Texas Hold'em, lots of hands going by. That covers most of the hands that you're ever going to see in the game. Now we're going to move on to hands that are much rarer, that you will not see as often. A hand that is better than a full house is called 4 of a kind. If you get all 4 of one of the cards in the deck, all 4 jacks, all 4 2s, that destroys a full house. That will destroy anything else.
Nice.
You're never going to really see... I'm trying to think of the circumstances. You could potentially see a full house versus a 4 of a kind. That would really fuck somebody over. Really fuck somebody over. And then the best hand, which I've been playing for years, and I've seen maybe 2 of them. Is the royal flush, aka the straight flush. No, I'm sorry. The straight flush is a straight and a flush. It's 5 cards in numerical order. The royal flush is just a fancy name for the straight flush that goes up to the ace. So you'll have 10, jack, queen, king, ace.
Right.
That's the royal flush. But any straight flush, even if you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the same suit, is basically the rarest hand in Texas Hold'em, and you'll see that once in thousands and hundreds of thousands of hands.
Yeah.
So those are the basic hands of poker, of all poker, except for like 3-card Caribbean bullshit. But of
Okay.
5-card draw and of 5-card 5-card stud, all that bullshit. All the games of poker generally revolve around those hands, okay? And most of the classic forms of poker revolve around the 5-card hand. Texas Hold'em is interesting because you are given more information about the hands, so it takes less away from luck and adds a little bit more to skill, which is why it's an interesting game. You are dealt 2 cards, and you have only 2 cards, and those are called whole cards. That's the nickname for them.
Okay.
So you are dealt 2 cards that no one else can see. So let's pretend it's just you and me playing the game. You're dealt 2 cards, I'm dealt 2 cards, specifically in the order of the dealership is here: 1 you, 1 me, 1 you, 1 me. Those are the whole cards. Now those have statistics of their own. There is a round of betting. That round of betting, when you only see your 2 cards, is called the pre-flop bet. Okay? This is us knowing, once you know the game, you understand the statistics of the hand that you have. For example, 7-2 offsuit is statistically the worst starting hand, aka the worst whole cards that you can have. Statistically, based on the rest of how the game is going to be played, as I'll explain, you are statistically going to have the least of those 5-card hands that you want hit. The best hand, as one would assume, is pocket aces, aka ace-ace.
Yes. Okay.
Because right off the bat, you have the highest pair, and that could potentially turn into the highest 3-card pair. That could potentially turn into the highest 4 of a kind, the highest of any other hands. So right off the bat, if you're dealt pocket aces, you have instantly better than high card, and you instantly have the nut pair against another pair. The nuts means the best possible statistical hand at that moment in time. There's some points in this game where you know, without a shadow of doubt, you have 100% statistically the best hand that is in play. There are very few other games in casinos and gambling where you have a 100% chance of knowing at any point in time that you have the best possible hand. That's another reason why this game is unique. Okay, so assuming you have 2 cards in your hand, I have 2 cards in my hand. That is called the pre-flop bet. And then on the table is dealt what is called the flop. The flop are 3 communal cards. Okay, that is the first of several rounds of betting. So there are going to be a total of 4 rounds of betting. We discussed the pre-flop bet. So first, just by looking at your 2 cards, you'd see what you have, you make a bet. Then the flop comes out, so you'd see 1, 2, 3 cards. Those are communal cards, cards which you can use to your best 5 cards that other people cannot see. Once again, Texas Hold'em, a little less luck, a little more talent, because you see what other people can use to complete their hand. So there would be a round of betting on the flop. Okay, so you already had 1 round of betting before the flop, then you have a round of betting on the flop, then you have what is called the turn. 1 more communal card is turned over, making a total of 4 communal cards and 2 in your hand to make the best 5-card hand. There is another round of betting during the turn, okay? And then, last but not least, is the river. The river is turned, the 5th card on the table, the 5th communal card, and the 2 in your hand to make the best 5-card hand, and the river is the last round of betting. After the last round of betting, is the showdown. The showdown is when people may or may not show their cards. It's complicated, I'll explain how that works. And the best 5-card hand, including what's in your hand and what is communally on the table, wins the game of poker, wins the hand of poker. So now let me go over betting, how the betting works in each of those betting rounds. And last but not least, we'll talk about etiquette, okay?
Okay.
Okay, and etiquette obviously differs from casino to poker table in virtual reality, but there are certain things of etiquette that just explain kind of how the game works also mechanically. So, with every round of betting, it works as such. And the blinds get confusing too. We're going to talk about the blinds last. But generally in betting, the first person to the left of the dealer, it really is, it's a whole culture behind it. So there's a dealer chip that goes around the table, right? So if you're playing a very casual game where people deal their own cards, the person who's dealing the card is the dealer. If you're playing a game where certain people are better at dealing, or the host insists on dealing, or if you're at a casino and there's one dealer, there is a dealer chip that moves around the table. Okay, so that is to ensure that every person gets a chance at being the first person at betting. So the whole night there isn't one person that is bullying somebody first. The first person to the left of the dealer is the first one to check or bet, and it goes clockwise always. Okay?
Okay.
So, I'm going to talk about blinds later, but yeah, so betting works as such. Let's say, if I check like this, I check, that means I'm not making a bet, I'm passing it to the next person. That's checking. Now, you can only check if nobody made a bet or raise before you, obviously. Checking is free, you're basically staying in there, and that's that, unless somebody chooses to bet after you. So let's say the person to my right checks. And let's say, for whatever reason, whether it's a bluff, whether I feel like I have something to gain, or whether or not I want to just try my luck against somebody else, I may throw in a bet. Now, I can choose however I want. Personally, I only play Texas Hold'em, a form of Texas Hold'em called No Limit Texas Hold'em. No limit means you can bet as much as you want. You can bet your entire chip stack. A lot of casinos have what's called Limit Texas Hold'em, which for me is a terrible idea because No Limit Texas Hold'em is the best way to make money at a casino. If you're slow and patient and you have killer hand and you're in that situation where you know you have a 100% chance of winning that hand, you have that much more to gain. No limit means you have a limit on your bet, which is basically fucking yourself. Anyway, I digress. You choose how much you want to bet, and at a casino or if you're at a house game with a table like this, whatever you place gently in the bounds of this table is how much you are wagering. Now, people in virtual reality and at some house games that are casual will toss the chips in. That's actually bad etiquette. That's called splashing the pot. And that's bad etiquette because you could say you put a certain amount in, but by splashing it, you're making it harder for the dealer to count how much you actually bet. House games, I do it all the time, and we joke around, but if you're in a place where you actually have to have etiquette, it is kind for you to place it neatly in the bounds. The dealer is responsible for shuffling it into the pot and counting it and announcing it. If I am to raise, say hypothetically, bet $10, the person to my left has a few options. He can fold, which means he nullifies his cards and is out of this round, loses whatever he may have put in the pot already. The next option is he can call me, which means he can put $10 in to match my bet and continue to stay in and see what is to come, or he can raise me. Now, most poker games insist that the minimum raise is at least double the original bet. So if I were to put 10 in, he would have to put 20 or more, no limit. So he can put $100, $1,000, whatever. Some house games don't necessarily have a minimum doubling bet, so I could put a 10, he could put 5 more. The only reason why they make that rule is so someone doesn't just be a dick every time, but I raise it 1 cent and make everyone go around. So then if I bet and he raises me and it goes to you, you can do the same thing. You can either fold, call his bet. So let's say I put in 10, he raised me 10, making it a total of 20 for the bet. Now it comes to you. Either you fold, call 20, or raise. And this goes on and on and on. People could raise even more, or more, or more. Once that round of betting is over, assuming there's no more raises, it goes on to the next stage of the betting. As I said, pre-flop, flop, turn, river, whatever stage you're on.
Right. And the person who did check over there.
Then the bet would come back to him, and now his check was free. But then once the bets were made, he has to agree or raise to the bet to stay in. And it's never a free ride unless everyone agrees for a free ride. Let me see what else. Other etiquette would be I love the etiquette part. The etiquette part's fun. There's a special way to hold your cards in real life too. If you hold them wrong, you could see the person next to you's cards the whole time if they're stupid. I've even seen people at casinos who don't really hold their cards very nicely. Oh, there's another bit of etiquette and stuff. So this is a rule that most people who play Texas Hold'em don't even know. But at the end, when there's a showdown, the last person who made a bet, not a call, the last person who made a bet at a showdown, unless one person folds their cards without being seen, which is allowed, if they're ashamed or don't want to show that they were bluffing or something, don't want to give away a part of their game, you're always welcome to fold without showing your hand. But if there's a showdown and both people are obligated to stay in the match, technically, according to the rules, the last person to make a bet has to show his hand first. So let's say you and I have a huge stake in the pot, and maybe you were bluffing, but you want to wait and see because you already paid. You want to see what my hand is. I have to show you. At that point, you can just fold without showing me, or you can show me your hand.
Sure. All right. So do I hit start?
Hey! Yeah, throw your card in there. Now the only thing that's going to put pressure on you, and there is a timer when it comes to checking and stuff, but don't worry. So you can use your index finger to peek at the cards, or your grip to actually pick the whole cards up. And if you do that, look, you cannot see my cards even if I show them to you, you see?